Julian Assange is free. Tommy Robinson has been arrested. Now he's free again, but not quite. I'm not so sure that Assange is free either. I'm going to talk about both of those. I'm Granniopteryx. Okay, so we'll start with Assange. He was released and he's gone to Australia, but it's some sort of a plea deal where they're dropping charges of treachery or something, and charging him with a relatively minor charge, and considering that he's been in prison here for 5 years, that would count towards it. So he's going to Australia, and then he's supposed to be flying to a US territory in the Pacific, some island or other. Australian politicians have reacted cautiously to reports of a plea deal to end the US pursuit of Assange in connection with the publication of hundreds of thousands of leaked documents. Assange was acting as a journalist. He didn't go rooting about in the FBI or the CIA's offices. He got information from a source and reported it, as a reporter is able to do. The persecution by America of Assange is one of those witch hunts that should shame any country. They just, all the various agencies just got so up their own fundaments they couldn't extricate themselves. US prosecutors said in court papers that Assange has agreed to plead guilty to a single criminal count of conspiring to obtain and disclose classified US national defense documents. No, he was just reporting what had been turned over to him. And he's due to be sentenced at a hearing on the island of Saipan in the Northern Mariana Islands in the Pacific on Wednesday. The Labour MP Julian Hill said no one should judge Julian for accepting a deal to get the hell out of there and come home. His health is fragile. Yes, and America has done a terrible thing. It's a sin which will rebound eventually on America. That sort of evil that they've been pursuing is not a path that leads to the health of the American body politic. So Australia has been fighting for Assange's freedom. Britain has acted disgracefully. They've confined Assange. They didn't need to do that. He hadn't committed any crimes in this country. We were just doing what America told us to do, or our government were doing what America told us to do. And in this case, it was perfectly dreadful. But as if our government isn't nasty enough, we then have this situation. I haven't been keeping up with Tommy Robinson recently, but apparently he went to a speaking date in Canada, and as he got out the plane, this happened to him.
Warrant? You're unlikely to appear.
What warrant that for?
You've got an outstanding immigration warrant. We'll talk about it in the vehicle.
Got one outstanding warrant?
Yep, outstanding immigration warrant. We'll talk about it in the vehicle. Okay?
He has an outstanding immigration warrant. What's that? No. They threw something out, just like how Trudeau threw something out about the truckers. They just came up with a cooked up violation, which isn't a violation, and then they arrested him. And having arrested him, they wouldn't tell. Sorry, I just got back from the stables. I have an awful lot of dust in my face. They wouldn't tell Ezra Levant where they were taking him, and Levant had to ask them several times. I'm not sure he actually got an answer.
APU downtown.
Where can I go to help out?
Which precinct? You're the fucking kidnapper.
Yeah.
Right, and then I don't know how he did this, but he is a resourceful chap. He managed to get his phone. He managed to get his phone out of his pocket, and he started, even with his hands tied behind his back, and he recorded the conversation he was having with his captors.
Order for my arrest. The minister's delegate. Who's the minister's delegate?
One of the officers.
One of the what?
One of the officers.
One of the officers. Is that government?
So it's
Just so,
a director with the CBSA.
a director with who?
CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency.
A director with the CBSA.
Okay, well, you get the picture. And then he was released, and Ezra Levant was there to greet him, and this is what we have found out.
You're out. I'm out, but I'm banned from leaving Albert. I'm banned from leaving Calgary. Banned from leaving Calgary. I have to see. They want my. I have to have my part. The conditions are conditions of release are. I have to give my passport in the morning. I'm not allowed to leave Canada. I said, what if I just want to
So
go?
that they're keeping him in Canada. Now, the first thought that leapt to my mind was that they were going to be keeping him in Canada until after July the 27th, at the secret behest of the British government. That was the first thing that occurred to me. I don't know whether that'll turn out, but it did occur to me. And the funny thing is, you know, I am not a conspiracy theorist. I get very nervous of people cooking up these big constructions. But when somebody, you know, maybe he's an agitator in Britain, but when that person turns up in Canada on a speaking tour and then finds himself being on the nasty end of some esoteric visa violation, you have to think that somebody has got it in for Tommy Robinson and is trying to silence him. Even if you are watching this thinking, well, that old girl's a conspiracy, a right-wing conspiracy theorist, the only thing that's missing is the white hood with the eye holes, and she's coming up with these weird stories. It could be, but the fact is he went to Canada on a perfectly ordinary trip, a recognised visa. There was no warning that he was not going to be welcome in Canada. He wasn't breaking any regulations. He has a big meeting on July the 27th where he had a very good rally a few weeks ago where everybody behaved beautifully, and it was a very uplifting experience, that rally, and it was full of people. And there's another one coming up in July, and he goes to Canada for an ordinary speaking engagement, and suddenly he has some sort of a passport violation of some sort out of nowhere. You have to imagine that the government is involved in that, the Canadian government and most likely the British government as well. Now, you may not like Tommy Robinson, you may think what he says should not be heard. Well, I would disagree with you on that, simply on grounds of this is supposed to be a democratic part of the world. But just consider this. You are living in a country where, I've just talked about Assange, and now we're talking about Tommy Robinson. Two people who are inconvenient to the government are being persecuted in ways that are not really that legal. And you may think, well, I think Tommy Robinson's a revolting person, and he can be as badly treated as necessary because I don't want him polluting the air with his words. You may think that. But you have to consider that when you victimise somebody like Tommy Robinson, when he's been done away with, you are next. This is supposed to be a democracy, and you are supposed to tolerate people who are not asking for your death, but are just voicing political opinions that you happen to disagree with.
They said you're not allowed to. So if there's certain conditions, I'm not allowed to. I have to come here every Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday. And I have to give them the address of where I am, notify them of any hotel that I'm staying in. But not... I don't understand it in the sense of...
Do you have to make any...
I can see that he is in a very emotional state there. And I can understand why, because this is, well, you know, it's silly to start wailing. It's so unfair. It sounds so schoolboyish, but this really is so unfair. And we are here, citizens of a democratic country, and we have tolerated a reporter like Julian Assange in prison, basically in prison for the past 15 years or whatever. He was 10 years in the Ecuadorian embassy and then 5 years. It must be something like that. I haven't looked up the exact figure. 15 years for reporting things which might be of benefit to all of us. And then people like Tommy Robinson, who may be a thorn in the side of the establishment, but still is not breaking the law by travelling to Canada, and yet is being treated like a criminal. This is not good. However much you dislike this person, this is very damaging to all of us. None of us should be tolerating this. Anyway, they're keeping him in Canada. He can't leave. In fact, I don't think he can leave the town he's in. So the speaking tour is not going to happen. Ezra Levant later says, well, maybe we'll get a bus and bring all the people to you rather than you going to them. Do you understand how awful this is? Just think about it. And I get lots of people making silly comments under my videos, and some people are saying, oh yeah, damn good that Tommy Robinson's being restricted. Think of it another way. As long as he is not breaking the law, however despicable you may think he is, or deplorable, or whatever, the government should not be able to restrict the movement of somebody it simply doesn't like. I know I'm repeating myself, but how can I get this through to some of you? Okay, well, look, I hope I've made my point. Till next time. You can help my channel by clicking like, by subscribing, by clicking the notification bell, and by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels are in the description, also links to donation sites, but really the best way you can help me is simply by clicking like. Thank you.